Welcome to the family with
M. Howard Gelfand.
Ooh,
And Andy Brant Bernard.
your writer name.
I'm in my journalistic mode today.
Andy, I love you. Remember when he was M. Howard Gelfand when I first met him when he interviewed me. But do you remember what one guy thought his name was? Not M. Howard Gelfand.
Yes, I do.
What was it?
McHoward Galfano.
Yep.
That was like the first story I wrote for the Minneapolis Tribune. And in those days, you know, we still had the linotype machines.
Oh yeah.
So they were typed in the words were typed in metal and then stamped into a page and then photographed, and then it went on and on like that. It was and so the problem was that the guys who ran the linotype machines, they weren't what you'd call, in many cases, they weren't like great with the keyboard, you know.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times they, especially if they weren't familiar with your name, it could come out in various ways.
McHoward Gelfano. And I just brought this up yesterday, but I want you to tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
When you met Irwin Jacobs sitting in the KQ studios, what he said to you about what your job was. Or it wasn't the job when it came out of his mouth. It was something else. I
was interviewing him because Minneapolis St. Paul magazine wanted me to do a story on his latest project, which was a delicatessen out in Minnesotan.
Yes, right.
And the reason he had it was because he had that building where he had the boat sales for sale.
Yep.
And so he had an extra room in there. So we figured, well, I might as well put a delicatessen in there.
Sure.
And so we were chatting, and I said something like, he asked me what I did, you know, what other things I did, and I said, well, you know, I'm out at Canterbury a lot. I'm a professional handicapper, and he said, oh yes, I have a daughter who's handicapped.
He actually thought you were handicapped.
Where do you go from there?
Yeah, it's nowhere to go from there. There's no question about it. Nowhere to go from there. Yeah, that whole thing, just even talking about him, he was always very pleasant to me. What a sad ending to a couple of lives that was.
Oh, man.
Took his wife out because she wanted him to.
Yeah.
And then took himself out too.
Yeah. And for him, there were probably any number of reasons why he might have wanted to take the door on the left.
Yeah.
Part of it was that we've seen this in other famous people. You know, he had this image of being incredibly wealthy, but he wasn't.
But he was not. That's true.
He basically didn't have any money.
That's what I understand. It was a big problem for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had the reputation of being very, very wealthy.
Yeah.
Didn't he live out in, I don't know, Wayzata, Minnetonka, one of those places?
One of those places, yeah.
But always a very friendly, very pleasant man to me.
Started out collecting scrap with his dad.
Yeah, that's right. His dad and his grandfather was a scrap. But what did they used to call him back in those days? The old Jewish men who did scrap metal.
Yeah, what did they call it?
They had a different name, but I can't remember what the hell it is.
Yeah, you're right. I can't remember.
Andy might be able to look it up. They were like probably back in the 30s, 40s, something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because you know, Jewish guys in the 30s and 40s didn't have a lot of options.
No, absolutely not.
They had to live in the ghetto. I took my kids down to the Historical Society one day, and I wanted them to see what life was like for Jewish people in the 30s and 40s.
Yep.
So we found the directory, the Minneapolis directory, you know, where you had all the 4-digit phone numbers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And now you can find those things online, but in those days you couldn't. And so I wanted my kids to see. Now my grandfather, we looked at the 1930 directory because that was the year my grandfather was killed by a drunk surgeon. So,
oh God, yeah.
So we looked in the directory and we found my grandfather's name, and he was listed as a clerk. He was actually a buyer at Dayton's, which was unheard of in those days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a Jewish buyer. And he was from Romania, so chances are he didn't speak the perfect English, but he must have done a hell of a job because he was promoted quickly. But we looked for Jewish names, and mostly sometimes we'd see clerk. A lot of times we'd see driver, which could have meant a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And then there were, you know, I think I'm trying to remember if they called them scrap collectors or something like that.
And did you find anything?
All I'm seeing is Scrapper and Junk Man.
Scrapper
Yeah.
and junk man.
Junk
There's
Man.
another
Ones up
name
here.
though in Minnesota, but I can't remember what it is. I just do not remember it, unfortunately. But it was a good. And by the way, if the major universities get their way, you'll be a scrap dealer again. I still don't understand. I talked to Josh Arnold about this. I talked to many of my friends, nice Jewish boys and girls.
Hmm.
I do not understand what the hell the position these major universities are taking against Jews. I don't get it.
Jude agrees with you.
Jude does.
He
I saw
probably
him.
thinks
I heard him.
He probably thought we were saying his name.
Oh, Jew instead of Jude.
Yeah.
Well, Jude is a form of Jew. That's true.
Yeah. And you do have to collect his junk.
Yeah, you better. Otherwise, that lawn gets very, very backed up.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
And right now the lawn is verdant. It's just gorgeous.
God, it is going to be it's going to be a little toasty the next few days from what I understand.
Yeah. 92 on Sunday.
92 Sunday. Right now it's clear on 74. It must be beautiful.
Isn't that
outside.
nice that we can say 92 and just leave it at that?
Just leave it at that. And,
Yeah.
I still think of assholes though. But anyway, going
It's a
forward.
cursed number forever.
Cursed number forever.
Yep.
What are you going to do?
That's why you should have worked for Cool 108.
Yeah, so
You don't see 108 too frequently in Minnesota.
I'd have to live to be 108 years old for it to make a difference.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Or
Yeah.
you'd have to become a Buddhist.
But we're seeing it
108
all
is-
over the country.
108's a sacred number there.
We're seeing it in California. They were saying, I read a story about like in Death Valley now,
Mhm.
and there is a reason they call it Death Valley,
There is.
but
yeah.
people still
Mhm.
want to go see what's going on there. So that's been like 130 lately. And it's the question is whether human beings can actually live at that temperature.
Mhm.
And so there are people in there who are wilting, who are having terrible health problems. They're in other places in California, but the problem is the helicopters that have to pick up these people and take them to hospitals.
Mhm.
Mhm.
They can't fly under those conditions.
I bet you
No.
that's true.
The heat rising it messes with them.
Yeah.
So it turns out most states have gotten to 108.
Yeah, most of them have.
Mhm.
Minnesota is one of them.
Yeah.
We hit where'd it go? 115
Holy
in
Hannah.
1917 in Beardsley.
Must have been all that plastic. Oh, that's right. It didn't exist.
Yeah, I don't know what Beardsley. It's like it's way west and kind of central. Population 216. So
216
it's
people.
also debatable whether or not their record keeping or their
Yeah.
instruments were
Well, that's
terribly
true.
accurate.
You do have
but,
to wonder about that.
Yeah, just 100 years ago in the middle of nowhere, were they using the what were they measuring temperature with?
Just a thermometer, I
Finger
suppose.
in the wind, I guess.
I think they just tried to fry an egg on their forehead.
At 115, yeah, you could probably get close.
Andy, I
Can you even
believe,
imagine?
Andy, that the record temperature in Death Valley that Mike just mentioned is 132.
134.
134.
Yep.
Holy God.
And that's what they're
That's
experiencing now.
Awful.
Pretty much right the same thing.
I will tell you, when my brother Terry was in the Marine Corps, we drove out to see him from Minnesota to, well, at that time he's at, I don't know, he's at Pendleton. Where the hell
Pendleton
was
is what I would think of. But
Yeah, probably. But he was out near Los Angeles.
Sure.
And the United States Marine Corps drove out. And me being the genius at that time, I would have been probably about 5 or 6.
Mhm.
Genius that I was, I got out of the car to walk into the gas station without any shoes or socks.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
It lasted about one step. That
Yeah.
was,
Oh, yeah, I,
holy God, was that hot.
A few weeks ago, I went up on our roof and blew out the gutters.
Oh, yeah.
And, in order to get down, you kind of have to get on your hands and knees first and then climb down backwards on the ladder.
Yeah.
Just having my hands on the roof there when it was, I don't think it was even 90 degrees. I had like minor burns for a few days on my hands.
So they do.
So, yeah, add another
Yeah.
40 degrees.
And on black tar, too. It wasn't
Yeah.
concrete. It was black tar.
So,
Like,
if you had to
holy God.
If you had to guess what state, so there's 3 states that are tied for the lowest record high. And one of them you're going to guess immediately.
Alaska.
Yep, that's
Yeah,
obvious.
there you go. It's
The
obvious.
other you will never ever guess.
The other 2?
Well, the one of the other 2 is kind of cheating. It's Guam, so
Oh,
I'm just
that
gonna,
is
I'm just going to
cheating.
give that to you. But the last one, you will never guess what state it is.
And what's the question again?
The lowest record high for that
The
state.
lowest record high. I would, God, See, I would probably go somewhere like Vermont or something
I was thinking
like
like
Close.
Maine is what I was
Also
thinking.
close.
So it has to be New Hampshire.
Nope. It is Hawaii.
Oh,
What?
Yeah, Hawaii has never gotten above 100 degrees.
that's very moderate there. I mean, it's always
It is.
seems like,
It is very
but
moderate.
Well,
it's
you
getting
thi-
worse.
You think like, island, sunny beaches, got to
Yeah,
get hot,
yeah.
but no, it really, because Hawaii is actually, I mean, something about being in the ocean keeps it very,
Yeah,
keeps it,
the trade winds or whatever.
the lowest it's ever gotten is 15 degrees.
Is that,
Which-
well, I suppose, yeah, 15 degrees. That surprised me it's even that low.
Well, here, the hottest temperature I've experienced was a temperature of about 103 in my dad's apartment.
Yeah, that's probably about, well, yeah. My grandpa could give him for a run for his money if he tried.
Yeah.
Oh, they like that heat. There's no doubt about
Yeah, he would
that.
have voluntarily hosted a nuclear reactor in his bedroom if we
Oh,
let him.
yeah. Oh, yeah. No, my dad, I think, was growing orchids at one point.
Sure.
Mm.
Why not?
I went into his house one day, the summertime. This was when my dad was in his 80s and he was wilting pretty fast. I walked in there and it was like, God, it was like walking into the Death Valley. It, walked into the house and immediately, you're feeling the air being sucked out of your lungs. It's so hot in there.
Yeah.
And it was about 90 degrees outside. And of course, my dad does not have the air conditioner on because he doesn't believe in it. And there's a piece of fish which is cooking, but it's cooking in his wastebasket.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so the aroma there was not
Yeah.
pleasant.
Not
and-
great.
So I said to my dad, God, Dad, it's really hot in here. Maybe I should turn the air conditioning on. And he said, well, if you're too hot, just crack a window.
Really. That's it. Crack a window. Let the heat in.
Yeah, let
Because
more heat in.
Let more heat in because it's not hot enough.
No.
I got to get you guys' take on this one because I still don't understand how these things happen. A 78-year-old, first of all, the fact the guy's 78 years old makes no sense to me.
Well, he's too young to be president.
Yeah, too young to run for president. No question about that. A 78-year-old Hawaiian man says he bought a vehicle from a Florida shop. Now, he's in Hawaii. He bought it from a Florida shop. He has not received it yet. On top of that, I don't know if I'd stiff a guy named Alan Sue. His real name is Alan Sue. On top of that, Alan Sue says that the owner has been dodging his calls, email, and texts. He bought a vehicle in Hawaii from a shop in Florida, paid $275,000 cash for that vehicle.
275,000?
Yes.
Cash.
Well, was it a tank?
Yeah. I mean, well, it's probably like a Ferrari or something like that, I guess.
Was it a Chevrolet movie theater?
Yes, that's what it is. On top of that, Alan Sue says that the owner has been dodging his calls, emails, and texts. Here he was talking about that. A TV station made the connection with the dealer, and they promised to refund the guy's money. They've also been accused of doing it before and telling the buyer after he had paid that they sold his car to another person.
Really?
Why would you do that to a 78-year-old man, first of all?
Well, because you could.
I suppose that's because you could do it. But why at 78 do you want to buy a $275,000 car anyway?
That's a great question.
I don't get it.
Because he's gonna, the rear view, the side view mirror is gonna crack off every time he tries to get out of the garage.
Oh, yeah, just snap it right off.
I've
every
gone through
time.
5 or 6 myself.
I got to be honest with you. It's one thing about having an electric vehicle. You better remember to shut the door on the charger
Yeah.
because you back
Yeah.
it out and it snaps right off
Oh, yeah.
because it hits the garage door.
So the
Or the
Mercedes-Benz G63, it looks like the MSRP starts at 143.
Mhm.
So it's not a cheap car to begin with, but apparently it has some super rare package.
Oh, it's loaded.
Yeah, it's the loaded version. So of course it's got to be worth $250,000 or whatever you said.
275.
It's
Actually,
insane.
275. And I cannot. I was trying to think of the most expensive car I ever bought.
Probably
Right.
the Roadster, if I had to guess.
The Roadster. You think? Oh, yeah, that's probably true. It was 120. I bought one of the very first Tesla. Well, I bought the first Tesla in Minnesota,
Hmm.
and that was like $125,000. I do remember that.
I don't know if I ever told you the story about Myron Gelfand. Now, Myron
I
Gelfand
don't think so.
he was not a cousin or anything, but I just found this in some news source one day. Myron Gelfand didn't drive much, but he did like once a week. He wanted to drive. He was in California, wanted to drive to the nearest casino.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I saw this kind of as a story that would be somewhat similar to the story of my dad driving. So one day he left for the casino and he never came back.
Oh,
And they couldn't find him anywhere.
really?
Yeah, and they looked everywhere. The family looked everywhere they thought he might be. There was a lot of dangerous driving between where he lived and the casino because it was,
okay.
there were a lot of canyons below, and you had sharp turns in a mountainous area. So, but they never found him, and they figured they never would. Then, must have been about 2 months later, another guy about his age, somewhere around 78 or so, was driving to the casino, and he disappeared. But in this case, they found his car. It had indeed gone off the road and into the canyon.
Oh,
But the guy managed to live. He was surviving. He had managed to live because the car crashed right down and rested on Myron Gelfand's car.
honest to God.
Yeah.
So it lessened the impact.
Yeah, lessened the impact.
So Myron was dead behind the wheel.
Yeah, well, he was dead. Yeah.
And rotted away pretty good.
I would imagine. Yeah. But
so these canyons don't have any travel in them. They're just deep crevices in the.
A lot of times, I mean,
Yeah.
Remember when Shoemaker, the jockey, remember he went through a barrier in a mountainous area and he was badly injured, and he sued this. He sued the state of California because the guardrail didn't stop him.
Well, how fast was he going?
Well, I'm not really sure,
Like
but
5?
he was probably going even a little bit faster than some of the horses he rode.
Yeah, that's
But,
probably true.
I mean, he was used to speed, right? He was
Yeah.
probably whipping the steering wheel.
Ooh, whipping the steering. You ever done that?
No, but I had a steering wheel fall off in my hands one day.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, that's got to be fun.
That was one of my dad's classic pass down cars. It was like a cheap Chevy. And
the first time the wheel came off, he was like, "Here you go. This is yours now."
And so I'm driving, and the steering wheel just feels a little loose, So I go into the dealership. It was downtown, so it was right near where I was anyway.
Right.
And I told them, I think my steering wheel's about to fall off. And they said, "No, well, that's not going to happen. It's, we don't know what your problem is, but that's not going to happen. They don't fall off." And I couldn't get him to do much. So I drove out of the dealership. And as I turned onto the street, the steering wheel fell off.
Oh, my God.
It was like a Roadrunner cartoon. I turned and the thing's in my hands.
Yeah. My God, that's a tough row to hoe.
Yeah. It could have been ugly too.
Yeah, it's like when my car used to turn itself off at highway speeds.
Mm-hmm.
Just turned itself off.
So it's like a fuel sensor or something had a fault, which caused the entire system a cascade failure. Car just shuts off while I'm on the highway going 60.
Oh, and this car broke down like 4 or 5 times when I was taking the Riverside exit off of 94.
Yeah.
It just seemed like every time.
Sure, people were very happy with you about that.
Yeah, it's oh yeah. People are not sympathetic when something like that happens.
No.
Why?
Well, because because we've become a nation of idiots and assholes.
We really have. People are getting dumber, Mark. Mark. Yeah, good. That was a good example.
You're not the first one to call me Mark.
Well, I've been called a lot of names too that we're not. Hey, so listen, Tim. But anyway, Mike, I have to agree with you. People are getting dumber by the day. What is going on?
Well, I mean, to be fair, when you break down and an exit off of 94, it really interrupts the flow of going 1 mile an hour down that exit that people love to do so much.
Yeah.
People
don't look at it, are incapable of looking at it from anyone's perspective but their own.
That's exactly right. They have their own version of the world, and it's way off kilter.
Yeah, we should change the name of our country to something like Solipsistica.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that.
That might catch on.
Sounds like something from a novel, so it might be more fun at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't I've never understood this, and I don't want to get in, some great giant political discussion or whatever, but people think that everyone is just like them. And if you're doing something different than they are, they don't like it or they even hate you because you're not following life's rules. Well, you had a different life than I did.
Yeah.
I had different experiences. Like people don't really understand why, I can, if somebody's being a pain in the ass to me, I don't pretend that it's okay. I fire back because I grew up learning that if you did let people take advantage of you, it would never stop.
Yeah.
So I am different in that way than somebody who grew up in, Wayzata. They didn't go through the same experiences, but by the same token, I don't know what it's like to grow up in a wealthy household. So I'm totally different than you. So I don't understand some of the things you do either, right?
But it does seem like, now I grew up in a pretty middle-class family.
Mm-hmm.
However, at the end of the month, we weren't getting hamburgers anymore. We were getting cream peas on toast.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because, it was right before payday. And so I feel like that, it wasn't a big deal, but I do think things like that help instill a little bit of character.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I understand that. But it had to be our school system that taught these people, or they took literally, hey, we're all the same. No, we're not all the same. And I think they did that because of skin color more than anything.
Probably.
Oh, no, don't worry about that. A different skin color than you. Well, we're all the same. No, we are not. Yeah. It's not even close to being true. And you're an imbecile if you believe that. It doesn't mean you shouldn't treat people the same. If you don't know them, be polite to them and all the rest of it. Don't judge some things they do because you don't know what they've been through, right?
But it goes back to what we've talked about, and that is that there's without the creative clash of cultures,
right?
You got no progress. You got nothing.
I agree, 100%. That's why, like I said, I was very, very lucky, as it turned out, to grow up where I grew up because there were different cultures in that one same neighborhood.
Yeah.
But I just don't understand what these people are even thinking, what they're talking about.
Well, the thing is, you've got people, and it's not true of all of them, but it is true of many of them, very, very wealthy people who really don't live in our society at all.
No, they don't.
And they don't eat where we eat. They don't drive where we drive.
Right.
They don't sit in airplanes that we have to sit in. And so life seems to be just sort of created for them.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, an example popped up right in front of me as you were talking about that. It's a story that's out today. I just don't understand, because you're good at acting and you make a lot of money, that people should care what you think.
But they do.
They do. And I don't know why they think that, but here's a perfect example.
It's because no matter how rich or even nauseating they might be, they're still better than politicians.
Oh, that's the talk that came up, last night. We were at a gathering, and that came up. Can you name a politician who isn't a filthy pig, money grubbing piece of shit now?
Well, there's that guy with the
yeah, there you go.
Well,
it's all about money now. Politics has always been about money. Who was it that said, you show me a guy? Oh God, you show me a guy with money, I'll show you a guy. Oh no, you show me a politician with money and I'll show you a crook. Who the hell was it? Calvin Coolidge, I think, maybe. Yeah. Might have been. I'm not really sure.
And he wasn't a crook. He was just an idiot.
He was an idiot. Yes. That's a whole different deal.
Well, I know Nixon liked to say the word crook.
Yeah. I am not a crook. Is what
apparently that was Harry Truman.
It was Harry Truman. That's exactly right. There you go.
Yeah.
You show me a politician with money and I'll show you a crook. It was Harry Truman, who made a couple of bad decisions himself. Let's not kid ourselves about that.
But they don't make him like Harry anymore.
They don't. Well, you can't drop the nuclear bomb on anyone with no excuse.
He had he of course had the motto, the buck stops here.
Yeah.
And now the motto of politicians is the millions of bucks stop here.
In my pocket.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Well, here's an example that's just popped up, what we're talking about. Okay, stuff just got real for President Biden because George Clooney has now decided to call on him to drop out of the race. Who cares what George Clooney
I
thinks about the presidency?
Celebrity says thing. Who the hell cares?
Well,
who cares?
So he wrote this op-ed piece for the New York Times.
Oh, Clooney did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I actually just read it this morning, and the thing about it is you can just take it for what it's worth. In other words, you can read the piece and just evaluate it as a piece of writing, not as a rich guy, a guy using his fame for whatever. So that's the attitude I take. And the one thing I noticed about the op-ed piece was the writing was so much better than just about anything you'll see in a local newspaper. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
But it was, and he may have had a lot of help with the writing. I don't know. But at least he was saying things that made sense.
Well, here are some of the things we're talking about. In an op-ed for the New York Times, the thing you're talking about, he said Joe Biden is a hero. He saved democracy in 2020, which is complete bullshit, by the way. We need him to do it again in 2024 by stepping down. Clooney said he loves Biden and considers him a friend, but he's losing the fight against time. And he proved that at the debate. In his subsequent ABC interview and at a fundraiser Clooney hosted 3 weeks ago. And the people who are standing by the president aren't helping. Quote, our party leaders need to stop telling us that 51 million people didn't see what we just saw. He added that he's spoken to numerous Democratic members of Congress and, quote, every single one agrees that Biden can't beat Trump. See, I didn't think they'd be that directed, but they don't think that he has any chance of beating Donald Trump.
A lot of people are very worried that if Biden wins, he's going to lose because he's just like, no one likes him anymore.
Yeah, it kind of seems like it.
Well, they think it's time for him to retire because he's just not. He doesn't have it.
What is he, 83?
He doesn't have the vitality required.
Yeah, and that's part of the whole thing about the ravages of age, especially now. Nobody really knows exactly what's going on with him. In other words, is it dementia?
Right.
Is it Parkinson's? But it seems like every time I go online and check out the latest videos about the situation, it's like, okay, one day I'm seeing a neurologist saying, oh yeah, I mean, this is the beginning of and to me it looks like mild cognitive impairment, which is the doorway to dementia.
Right.
And because I consider myself something of an expert, which I'm not, but I still consider myself that way because I took care of my dad for 10 years and I saw each stage.
Yep.
And you definitely can see those stages in him. But then the next thing I see is a another neurologist, and this guy, his specialty is Parkinson's. And the guy says, you can see it from a mile away. It's Parkinson's.
Yeah.
And it could be. We don't know. And that's, of course, the biggest problem of all is we don't know. This is a democracy. We're supposed to know these things. But we don't know. So there is that. And the irony of it all, when you think about it, is that you've got Republicans who are saying, no, Joe Biden's just fine. He's okay.
Are they? They're playing that
and then
card.
The Democrats are saying he's not okay. No,
right?
Because obviously it's in it's in their best interest of in the Republicans' best interest to make sure that Biden runs. So, and I'm not saying that the wouldn't work the other way around.
No, there's no question about it. Well, these two are playing. It's basically all-star wrestling. To me, they're the same people. The people at the top of the Democratic and the Republican Party are the same kind of people.
Yeah.
It's just one of those. Well, look. Apparently now, from what I understand today, what is it? The 12th, the 11th of July. Today. What I've heard pretty much all morning from different news sources is that if Joe Biden doesn't drop out of the race, they will lose the presidency, the House, and the Senate. They think they're going to lose across the board.
That was what Clooney was saying in the piece.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's what they're worried about that, and they should be. And then other people are saying, well, tonight is the night that will probably decide the future of Joe Biden.
So what's going to happen tonight?
Well, tonight he's giving a rare press conference.
Oh, that's right. He is doing a press conference.
So he's going to get the usual nasty questions, as well as there'll be some good questions too. But there'll be a lot of nasty questions. He's going to have to fight his way through that. Yeah, and I don't know, but I mean, most of us would have thought that the whole thing was decided by the so-called debate.
Yeah, the so-called, that wasn't much of a debate.
Not much of a debate, no. And the bottom line here is that we the people are being held hostage by a couple of elderly men.
That's true. That is very, very true. How did that happen? Why did it happen?
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it.
Well, money is always a big thing.
It's always the money. Always.
And of course, in the case, in some cases, it's just fear. Politicians are very fearful people.
Yeah.
And so, they'll all these guys, as an example, who talked about how, like J.D. Vance, he worried at one point that Trump would be the new Hitler, right? Now he goes everywhere and talks about how wonderful Trump is. He's the greatest president we've ever had.
I know.
The hypocrites.
They're all across the board. It's on both sides.
Yeah,
I am not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I have tried to move as centrist as I possibly can be. And of course, there are people on the side think I'm way far right, and other people on the other side think I'm way far left, because I have different opinions about different things. Some of them lean toward Democrats, some of them lean toward Republican. But I'm literally standing in the middle, looking both ways, going, "Are you people nuts?"
Yeah, the system is obviously not working at all.
No, it's
the Democrats have a great potential candidate in Gretchen Whitmer. She checks a lot of boxes.
Michigan's governor.
Yeah. And, she works with both sides in Michigan because you kind of have to. She worked with the auto companies, but also works with the unions. And she says all the right things. And she's obviously courageous. She didn't back down when they were trying to kidnap her. All this stuff.
Who was trying to kidnap her?
Well, it was just people who were mad at her because of it. It was the people who were mad because they had to wear masks. COVID masks.
Oh yeah, that thing's been around for a while.
Yeah, it's time. But I'll tell you something. I'm going off on a tangent, but it's here now.
What's here?
What they call the FLIRT variant. FLIRT is an acronym, and don't ask me what it stands for.
Okay.
But it was basically everywhere but Minnesota, and now it's in Minnesota.
Is this a kind of COVID or something?
It's COVID, yeah.
Oh, it is COVID.
Yeah, okay. It's COVID. Yeah, my middle son Max, who's like me, he's had every vaccine, and he tries to distance and do distancing and all the right things. And 4 years he got by, but just recently came down with this variant.
It's the variant.
And the good thing about the variant is that it's not going to kill people, the younger people. The bad thing is if you're over 70, it may well kill you.
I had COVID twice. It's been a couple of years now, or a few years, I guess now.
Mm-hmm.
I got it once because one of my coworkers was drunk
yes,
and coughed in my face.
Yeah, it's great.
And then when I told her to back the F up, I was bitched at by management for mistreating my coworker.
Oh, of course.
Of course I was.
Yeah, you can't actually act like a human being.
No, I can't act like a human being that's pissed off. And I did get COVID the next couple of days.
Yeah.
Do you think, both of you, I'm talking to Andy and Mike Elfin and all the listeners too, because many, many people believe this variant was invented, that they came up with it, and America was involved, China was involved, a lot of other places were involved. Why would they invent a new disease? What's the upside of that?
Yeah, that's a big question. It seems quite likely that it did escape from this lab.
Yes,
but then everybody wants to make a conspiracy theory out of it.
Yeah, conspiracy are very big news.
And I wouldn't buy the conspiracy theory.
I don't know. I just don't understand why you would invent a new disease that kills people. Why would you want to do that?
Well, and of course, COVID has been around for a long time.
It has.
It's just that it was mostly in bats.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. I do remember that.
But as we know, what happens is these diseases like the flu, they go from animals to humans in the worst possible cases.
I don't know. I was just thinking about this. I don't think I know one person who died from COVID. I mean, that doesn't mean nationally it means nothing, obviously. No. But I was trying to think, do I know anybody? I know a lot of people had COVID, me twice, like I said.
Yeah.
But I don't think I know anybody that died of it.
I know people whose parents died of it.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah.
So they were in their 80s?
Yeah, they were in
something like
an assisted living type thing.
that. And
So-
it got around assisted living. That's
assisted
tough.
living places are notorious for
Yeah.
spreading disease.
Yeah, I
A disease gets
suppose.
in there, everyone's going to get it.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can't. It just, they don't really have the capabilities to protect these people.
Do you think the fact that pharmaceuticals make so incredibly much goddamn money that this was part of it? It's just this also is about money.
I think they have enough diseases out there and enough ways to monetize them.
Yeah, I would think so. Well, I'll give you an example. I take sleep medication because if I didn't take sleep medication, I would never sleep.
Mhm.
My brain just will not shut off.
Yeah.
It just won't, especially if something's gone wrong. Then I got no chance of sleeping for like 2 weeks. Right?
I know that part.
So I went to a doctor and they prescribed some medication for me, and I went to get it. This is 10 milligram sleep medication, and I have some left, but I don't think I'll buy it again because in order to be on this medication, it would cost me $6,000 a year to take sleep medication. So I'm thinking maybe Unisom or Z Sleep or, that's what I'm thinking right now.
Well, Trazodone, it's cheap.
Yeah.
And it works for me, but it obviously doesn't work for everyone.
Doesn't work for everyone, but $500 a month.
Yeah.
For basically 30 pills. That's a lot of damn money. I mean, Andy, have you ever heard anything like that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've heard of infusions that are tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Once you get into those biologic things.
Yeah. If you need biologics, you're in real trouble.
Yeah.
And not just because they're expensive.
No, one of my sons has to take those because of he has a unique and very bad form of arthritis.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So he needs to take, you see these drugs advertised all the time, like Enbrel is for one. I think is that the one that Mickelson was promoting all these years?
Oh, right, yeah.
It might have been. I can't remember, but there's a number of these drugs from different pharmaceutical companies that people have to take. And generally speaking, what happens is, there's like 3 or 4 different brands, and you have to go from one to the other. So you'll take one and it'll work for maybe a year, sometimes 2. Then it won't work anymore. Then you have to go to the other one.
Right.
But amazingly, it's quite a coincidence. They all cost the same amount of money.
So did they all get together and go, here's what we're going to do?
Yeah, this is what we're going to do.
That's what they do, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think the retail cost now is about $85,000 a year.
85 G's a year.
Yeah.
Who could afford that?
Basically almost nobody.
Almost no one.
So, but for whatever reason, you can get that drug from most, not all, but most medical insurance will cover that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there you have, it's like a deal. I mean, obviously the insurers are in on the deal.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Oh, there's no question about that.
Yeah. And so, it's just a scam.
Well, it's an open secret that hospitals, the way that they price things is priced because they know that the insurance is going to pay for it. So,
right. Yeah.
They give you a pill and they say that'll be, $2,000 because they know insurance will pay that.
Yeah. And you're not supposed to, if you have to be in the hospital, then I think maybe we've all experienced, they don't want you to bring your pills along.
No, they don't. I tried that
right.
last time I went in and they wouldn't let me take them.
Yeah. Well, that's the first thing I do when my intestines shut down and I have to go to the ER and then I have to stay in the hospital for 5 days.
Some pills in.
I smuggle all my pills
Yep,
in.
you have. Yeah, because they wouldn't even let me take like my Nexium, propranolol,
Right.
pretty standard things.
Oh, yeah.
No, they had to give me their own special versions of these pills.
Really?
I had the bottle with the dosage on them.
Yeah.
I could show them this is 40 milligrams of propranolol, but no, that wasn't good enough. They had to give me them and then, of course, charge me for them.
Well, and propranolol is just your basic generic, right?
Yeah.
So you should be able to get it for like $1.50 for a month or something.
I don't think I pay anything.
Yeah, that works too. Yeah.
Yeah, but for some reason, no, they say it's like to make sure there's no interactions.
Oh, for
but it's
God's
like,
sakes.
yeah, I don't. What do you think? I'm going to like take half a bottle and kill myself in the hospital just
Probably
for
not.
the hell of it?
Yeah, it would be kind of hard to do with propanol. You'd have to take a whole lot of that.
I have a question for both of you, and then for everybody actually. Why do all medications have to have names that are impossible to pronounce?
There are rules in place.
What a shock.
Yeah, for some, I don't know. I don't think the rules are known, but for some reason, once you go past a certain level of clinical trial, I think it might be once you get past phase 1, or even maybe if you get to phase 1, you have to name your product, and it has to be like it has to conform to some set of rules that have something to do with, like, for example, some classes of medication, they have to end in the same suffix. Or like penicillin analogs, like amoxicillin, penicillin.
Oh, sure.
That sort of thing. But then as time goes on, the rules get more and more strange.
Yeah, yeah.
So oftentimes you have no idea what the name came from. Someone out there does, because they made the rule, and ostensibly they made it for a reason. But we will never know.
Well, like, there's a lot of names like Xanax. That sounds pretty.
Well, that's a brand name, and that's different, and that also has rules.
It's a brand name.
Yes. The actual drug name of Xanax is alprazolam.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And the lam suffix is a thing as well.
Yeah, I saw a new drug. I think it's a new drug. I was watching, of course, the news, and you get a lot of good advertising on the news.
Oh yeah,
sure. Especially like the 5:30 network news. It's almost all pharmaceuticals.
It is 100% pharmaceuticals. You're right.
And there was a new one called Wegovy.
Yeah, Wegovy it started as, right?
Oh, Wegovy, yeah.
Wegovy, yeah.
Wegovy.
Yep. So that's the new brand name of the it's basically just Ozempic.
Yeah.
But it's a different brand of Ozempic, more or less.
Yeah. And with those advertisements, basically now you see overweight people singing.
Yes, that's exactly. Yeah, they do. They sing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And it's so bad because it's not like these are clever lyrics or anything.
No.
It's like, we used to be fat, but now we're not.
I just don't. I did find, by the way, some sleep medication that helps, but I cannot pronounce the name of either one of them because literally, I think the shortest one is 12 letters.
Yeah, generics always use the drug name, whereas the branded versions use the brand name.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, they work. And these two things that I did find through a great doctor, $9 a month.
Well,
so you go from $500 a month to $9 a month. Why the big swing? I don't really understand that.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that if somebody wants to make a hell of a lot of money.
Now, a lot of these drugs, they're just sort of accidental drugs.
Oh,
yes,
yeah?
Most of them are.
Yeah.
They'll just like put molecules together and then put them in a rat and see what happens.
Yeah.
And then if the rat gets better, they're like, hey, look at that.
And that's just the deal with trazodone. I'm not trying to advertise trazodone.
No, but it works for you.
It's just a good example.
Yeah.
But trazodone is and was created as an antidepressant. But people didn't really like taking it as an antidepressant because, for one thing, it just zonked them out.
They just go to sleep. Yeah.
So they said, hey, people go to sleep here. We should probably do something about that. And then, of course, the other problem with trazodone is that it was apparently a lot of men became they had priapists from that. Yeah. I don't know. I was going to say priapactic. There's some term for that. But anyway, they had it. And then, of course, and guys would take it and they'd say, hey, hey, this is great, because now I have an erection. And then like about a week later, they were saying, I don't know, I still have the erection.
Yep.
And
that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, it's like it's the whole story of pleasure prolonged as pain.
Somebody was telling me about a situation with some sleeping pills that for men, obviously I'm talking about here, they can get an erection, but they can't ejaculate What would cause that?
Yeah, all dressed up and no place to
Yeah,
go.
all dressed up and no place to go. Exactly. What would cause that, though? Just not
anything that messes with your brain that much is going to cause all sorts of strange things to happen.
So it just the sensitivity is not there. Is that probably
necessarily
part of it?
I think that might be.
I mean, it could just be it's a sleeping pill. It's designed to shut down parts of your brain.
Well, that's true.
So it's like, imagine a quarter of your brain just goes offline.
Yeah.
That's a very good
point. Well, that's
the
thing about trazodone. If you took enough, you become priapic. But you had to take more than you needed to take to go to sleep.
Yeah.
But so you're tired. So what are you going to do?
And well, that was the whole thing. Yeah. Because like guys, they took enough, they'd get an erection, but they'd also want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
So they have an erection in their sleep.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Maybe. That's quite useful.
Hey, maybe I could have a wet dream.
See, maybe you're absolutely positive. Yeah. I just wish that we would someday get to the point where not everything is about money. That would be really nice if we could get there.
Well, here's something that's not about money.
Okay.
Shelley Duvall just died.
Oh,
Shelley Duvall. She's not that old, is she?
She was 75.
No, that's not that old.
Not that old
anymore. That's very young, actually, with Mike and I think.
Telling me that.
I don't know, for a celebrity, though.
Shelley Duvall. What was she best known for?
The Shining.
Yeah, The Shining. And she played Olive Oil, too, in Popeye.
She did a lot.
I
Yes,
think
she was. She was in Popeye.
Yeah, she was in Popeye.
She kind of had that kind of body.
Yeah, she did. Absolutely.
Yeah, very thin and lanky.
Yeah, but a brilliant actress.
Like very
She was
thin.
very good. What did she die of?
I don't think complications of diabetes.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Died in her sleep of complications of diabetes.
Damn.
75 years old.
4 days, 4 days shy of 75.
Oh, she was only 74. My goodness.
No, diabetes is not a good thing to have.
Although I have heard that the death rate for Americans has gotten lower. Not the death rate, the death age has gotten lower rather than higher.
Well, that's largely because of COVID killing off all of the 90-something-year-olds.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Arguably, our life expectancy was artificially inflated because we had so many people being basically kept on life support for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, you see the way that these people in their late 80s and 90s are being kept alive, and it's like they're not really alive. They're living, but only technically. And it's like, for every 99-year-old person in a nursing home just sitting there waiting for the end is going to bump up the life expectancy of the average by quite a bit because 99 is very old.
Well, one thing that I would try to say that my message wouldn't get through, but what I try to tell people who were furious because their liberties were taken away because they had to wear a mask or something.
Yeah,
is we're getting to the point now where we can kind of see what post-COVID life is like.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
It ain't like it was before.
No, it won't. That does happen. You're absolutely right.
I mean, nothing good came out of it.
To lighten the moment, we only got about 6-7 minutes left to go. So to lighten the moment, Egan has granted a permit for a church to move in Egan. It's called River Valley Church. Their planned move is going to go pretty well, apparently. It's on Diffley and Johnny Cake Road. So you guys know where that is. I'm assuming I do. Raised objections from some neighbors with concerns about traffic, parking, and the church's position on social issues. So I knew that'd show up eventually. The social issues had to be there.
So where on YouTube will I find their Sunday performances?
Sunday performance is going to be in a former Kowalski's market. They're moving into a former grocery store.
They're going to keep the aisles up.
But I have a question. This kind of goes back to what we started with.
Yeah.
We're not all the same.
No.
They're worried about the church's position on social issues. How, unless it's in your brain and you have a need for it, would you change your view on social issues anyway?
I don't know. One thing I believe, this is just me, I believe we need more produce and less religion. But that's just me.
No, that works out. Are people still locked into religion like they used to be when we were? I didn't think so.
I mean, not around here.
Yeah, not around here. In the South, I suppose they still are.
Louisiana or someplace.
Largely Hispanics are driving the Christianity in America these
Oh
days.
yeah, I suppose that is true.
Hispanics are still very religious, and there's a lot more of them than there used to be.
There's a
yeah.
lot more. Yeah.
Yeah.
No question.
It's this is probably one of those mega churches. Is that right?
Says
I'm
Egan
on their
Grass Spring.
website. They have a lot of them.
Oh, they have a lot of them.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They have 12 of them. One of them is in Vancouver, like the Vancouver, or does Minnesota have a Vancouver?
No, but Washington does.
So it's a franchise.
It's a franchise church.
So
Yes,
it's a franchise.
Can you just like go drive? Is there a drive-through window?
Could be.
it's a drive-through communion. Drive-through communion is a thing.
Yeah, it is. Drive-through communion is definitely a thing.
Oh man,
No question about it.
Transubstantiation on the go.
You know, I here once again, this is human frailty and human fault. I think it is a good thing for human beings to believe there's something bigger than them, because it might cut back on their ego a little bit.
Yeah.
But then it has to go way far down the road where it's unless you believe it. What I believe religiously, you're a pain in the ass. It's like, no, we have different lives again.
Well, and it's interesting, you know, that there's some groups of far right people. One of them I think is there's a couple of people we've heard of, and they're saying that really we only need one religion in this country.
Social Security.
Well,
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's a necessity for sure.
Oh God,
for some people, you know, a lot of people are living off of that, and boy, it can't be easy.
That ain't not a lot of money there.
But you know, it's like that's what General Flynn. We all know about General. Flynn.
General Flynn, yeah.
I think he came up with the great quote. He said, we need one country in this world, and we need one religion." Now, he didn't specify the religion, but I think you can probably guess.
Why do we need that, in his opinion? Why do we need one religion?
Because everybody that doesn't believe what he believes should be eliminated.
But here's what I don't understand. I think I was maybe in kindergarten, maybe first grade, when I looked at the words God and devil, and I said, how does no one see that this just means good and the evil?
Well, yeah.
But they don't get it that way. They don't, God is good and evil, the evil. I mean, there's good and evil. But that's not the way they look at it at all.
Yeah.
These are completely different things. No, they're not.
Hey, got bad news for you. It's a metaphor.
Exactly.
But now we've got so much extreme stuff going on there in the religion department. You know,
we do.
And I grew up. My best friend when I was a kid was the son of a Methodist minister.
Oh, okay.
And they had a nice little church, right? They didn't of course they didn't have radio shows.
No, that's true.
They didn't have anything. They served the community, and they served it very well. And you know, they were great people. But now, of course, I look in any direction, and I'm seeing these pretty radical religions.
Oh yeah.
And it's a constitutional right, but yeah, I think we're better off in the middle, kind of. You know,
well, in the middle.
We're better off with tolerance.
I guess my best way to put it is, as far as religion is concerned, yes, obviously, I hope I see my mother again someday, but I don't know that I will.
Right.
And I don't know following a religion is going to get me there either. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I hope it does. I hope I'm wrong. But some people are absolutely locked in. They will see everybody they've ever known in heaven. And I hope you're right and I'm wrong.
Yeah.
What if you both end up in the afterlife and it's like the Egyptian afterlife?
Which is what?
Like, wow, we were way off. But hey, at least it's something, right?
And it's too hot too.
How do we end up in the desert? This doesn't make any sense.
All right. Any closing words?
I just I got up a little early today, which I don't like, but
believe me, I know.
Yeah.
And I do too.
But I went outside
for different reasons, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all waking up early for different reasons.
Yeah. But once I went outside, I mean, there was dew on the grass.
Yeah.
We have this verdant universe right now in front of us, which we don't get very often.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even my yard, which has a mixture of various things and a little grass thrown in.
Yeah.
But even that just looks manicured right now. It looks perfect.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. So we don't get this that often.
I will close with my take again on waking up early. I actually talked to Dr. Pauly about this. I said, why am I waking up in the middle of the night?
Mm-hmm.
He said, because for 37 years, it wasn't the middle of the night.
Yeah.
That you woke up at 3:30 in the morning because you had to go to work and be there by 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So my brain still thinks I have to get up at 3. I wake up every night at 3:30.
It's also kind of in the DNA going back, millions of years.
Yeah.
You went to bed, people didn't have any choice. They went to bed when the sun went down.
Mm-hmm.
And if the sun was down for 12 hours or so, they went to sleep, and then they got up in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And they did what people do in the middle of the night. And then they would go back to sleep. What for us, when we might read.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
Some people would have sex.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard. I don't know anything about
Yeah,
that.
we don't know anything about that.
But some people do. And some people might, they might have some tea without caffeine in it, relax. And then, like an hour or two later, if you can do this, you go back to sleep.
I cannot.
Yeah.
If I wake up and stay in bed, I can fall asleep again. But if I get up, I'm done.
Yeah.
I cannot fall asleep again.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I thought I learned a lot today. I hope our audience learned a lot as well, because that's why I love doing this show, because we learn a lot of things about other human beings who are not exactly like us. Get it? That's a good thing.
Well, what Paul Wellstone said, we're here to inform people.
Yes.
Didn't he say that?
He did, yes.
It struck me as very funny.
He was never a big fan of mine. I do know that. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really know him, just that we had him on the TV show, and he went along with the jokes.
Oh, that's good.
So he was capable of that.
But he was no John Gallus.
No, Gallus he was the man.
Phenomenal.
He was. We got very lucky with that.
Oh, he was a terrific human being. He had a relative that had some problems, and his concern for their safety and well-being was way over there. He was a very nice man.
Yeah, just a very sweet guy.
Very sweet guy. All right, we'll talk to you on the morning show tomorrow, and then, of course, the Friday version of this show. Thanks a lot.
Every time I hear the same, reminds me how you talking.